Human history has one small problem. For most of it, nobody bothered to write anything down. Not because they were lazy, but because humans did not conveniently appear on Earth already literate. Reading and writing are relatively late additions to the human skill set. Historians love documents, letters, tax records, propaganda carved into stone by self-important rulers. That's our comfort zone. But the first several million years of humanity, nothing. No archives, no memoirs, no cave diary entries complaining about the weather or the neighbors. So when we talk about the earliest humans, historians have to borrow methods from other disciplines. Archaeologists dig things up. Anthropologists study behaviors, biologists analyze DNA, and together they try to reconstruct the distant past using whatever scraps ancient humanity left behind, which mostly consist of bones, stone tools, and the occasional burial site. Modern science has made this reconstruction far more precise than it used to be, but let's be honest, when you're trying to understand something that happened hundreds of thousands or even millions of years ago, a certain amount of educated guesswork is unavoidable. The earliest human-like creatures, known as hominids, appeared in Africa around 3 to 4 million years ago. Among the most significant were the Australopithecines. They lived in East and South Africa and were among the first hominids to make simple stone tools. These were not impressive tools by modern standards. We're talking about rocks that had been deliberately chipped into sharper rocks. But at the time, this was cutting-edge technology. Civilization had humble beginnings. Another major step in human development came with the appearance of Homo erectus around 1.5 million years ago. The name means upright human being, which might sound like a small detail, but walking upright turned out to be one of evolution's more useful design choices. Homo erectus developed more varied tools and, importantly, became the first hominid to leave Africa. They spread into Europe and Asia, beginning humanity's long tradition of wandering across the planet and settling in places where survival is frankly questionable. Then, around 250,000 years ago, a new stage in human evolution appeared. Homo sapiens, meaning wise human beings. The name, as history has repeatedly demonstrated, may have been a touch premature. Homo sapiens emerged in Africa between 200,000 and 150,000 years ago, and evidence suggests that around 70,000 years ago, they began migrating out of Africa and into other parts of the world. But they were not alone. As modern humans expanded into new regions, they encountered other human relatives already living there. One of the most famous of these were the Neanderthals, named after Neander Valley in Germany, where their remains were first discovered. Neanderthal fossils have since been found across Europe and Western Asia, dating from roughly 200,000 to 300,000 BCE. For a long time, Neanderthals were portrayed as crude, dim-witted cavemen, essentially the evolutionary equivalent of the awkward cousin humanity would rather not talk about. But modern research has corrected that narrative. Neanderthals used sophisticated stone tools, survived extremely harsh Ice Age environments, and were the first humans known to bury their dead. That suggests special bonds, emotional intelligence, and possibly even symbolic thinking. In other words, they were far more human than we once gave them credit for. By about 30,000 BC, however, Homo sapiens had replaced the Neanderthals, who gradually became extinct. Exactly why that happened is still debated. Climate pressures, competition, and interbreeding likely all played some role. Yes, some of y'all have Neanderthal ancestry. And what is known is that by 10,000 BCE, Homo sapiens sapiens, fully modern humans, had spread across the globe. And by that point, they were the only human species left, which leads to one of the most important conclusions of early human history. Despite all the ways modern societies categorize and divide people, by race, ethnicity, nationality, language. Biologically speaking, all humans belong to the same subspecies. Whether someone is European, African, Asian, or Australian Aboriginal, we are all members of the same species, Homo sapiens sapiens, one surviving branch of what was once a much larger human family. So the story of the first humans is not really about some distant primitive creatures that have nothing to do with us. It is about our own beginnings, a long evolutionary history that started in Africa millions of years ago and eventually spread across the entire planet. And when you zoom out far enough, it puts a lot of modern arguments into perspective. After all, every single person alive today is descended from the same small population of humans which once chipped rocks into tools and tried very hard not to become something else's dinner. Humanity has come a long way since then, though occasionally it's kind of hard to tell.